Whilst we're on the football topic, you
Go
just
on.
stick with football, innit? The Premier League season's over.
Yeah,
We know
one
who's
game
getting
left.
relegated.
Yep.
We know who's winning the league.
Yep.
I think in essence we know who's going to finish in top four. I know it's quite different. Nottingham Forest still can. If Nottingham Forest beat Chelsea, they obviously go into the top four and get the Champions League space, or top five in this case. I think what we want to do is, firstly, what do you think of this season? Because for me, not just because we're sitting 16th, am I saying this? But I felt this season was quite
Underwhelming.
meh.
Yeah.
Like, one, it was a terrible relegation race. Like, we've seen seasons where we've seen
Comes
like,
down to the
even,
wire. Yeah,
like,
we've known
even
who's going to get relegated for like a month.
literally, maybe
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? Maybe like last 2 months.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're looking at like 14th can get relegated. With, you know, and in this case, we're not seeing that. The top four race has been okay, but the names, I guess, doesn't have the same rivalry because we're looking at people like Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, you know, Aston Villa. It's not the names that you normally see. Plus, the title race has been tame. What do you think about the Premier League this season?
Yeah, I think it's been tame. I would agree with that. But I do like to see blood coming in. Eddie Howe's won a trophy with Newcastle. Glasner's won Crystal Palace's first trophy ever, which is crazy.
Nottingham Forest have a solid
Nottingham
season.
Forest. You know, so I think that bodes well. Do you know what it's like? Yeah, this felt like, you know, when you go to watch a film, and it's like the film's okay, but it's a setup for the next film. You know what I'm saying? You're watching Avengers Infinity War, and it's a good movie, but really, you know, it's 2 hours to set up for Avengers Endgame. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if you're into Avengers or Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows Part 1 versus Part 2. Like, it's just, that's kind of what this feels like, because going into next season, Arteta is on his final last legs. Pep Guardiola needs a big redemption story. Liverpool and Slot are kind of in a good place. Man United and Chelsea need a redemption story.
Even with Slot, it's a case of a lot of people are like, he had a great season, but did he have a great season due to Arsenal not being at their best?
I'm just talking about who's going to be under pressure.
The reason why I'm saying it, why it supports your point is because next season there's going to be even more. It's not like the question marks go from Slot. There's still going to.
But
be
he's got
question
grace.
marks.
If he's not, you know what I mean?
He does.
As long as he finishes in the top four next season, he's won them. If they waited so long for Premier League trophy, do you know what I'm saying? Like they can,
I mean, it will run us up like other than the COVID trophy that they have, which I don't really count. Because they didn't even get to do a parade with it. Like,
yeah, but yeah, like I think Slot, you know, he's in a good place. But there's lots of other people. Unai Emery, do you know what I mean? Had a really good run in the Champions League, but got slapped by PSG and dumped out in a pretty savage way. Do you know what I mean? Like this just feels like the second act gearing us up for the third act.
I think this season has been the worst Premier League season in Premier League history.
For entertainment, I can see why. For entertainment, I can see why you would say that. But I think again, what's gonna have to happen. Because I don't know if Nottingham Forest go away, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Newcastle. When you go into next season, regardless of who Arsenal sign, regardless of who Man United sign, there are more teams that you feel like are not a guaranteed 3 points than ever before.
That's a fact.
Do you know what I mean? So the reason I think that what's going to have to happen over the next season or two is we're just going to have to get used to, you know, right now if we go into the first game of next season and United draw with Newcastle, that's not a bad result for Man United.
But I feel like what you're missing. And I feel like the biggest part is the lack of quality. This season we've seen a clear lack of quality from City. Even Arsenal, you can arguably say this has probably been your worst season due to injuries or whatever.
Yeah.
United and Spurs, we definitely can say it. And just to double back on the fact that not only is there lack of quality, but I feel like the Premier League's also lack credibility in the sense that we've seen teams prioritize other trophies which normally shouldn't be the case. Spurs,
I don't know.
Chelsea, United Arsenal have all prioritized other trophies instead of prioritizing the Prem. Which for me, I don't know
if I agree with that. A lot of those teams, Arsenal, we ain't really had a title race because it was kind of wrapped up pretty early. But Man United, Spurs, and Chelsea were having such a bad season. They're pretty early. They had to ignore the Premier League. They've not at one point have they ever been in the Premier League race. They've been forced to. It's not like Chelsea are focused on the Conference League by design. They were in the title race. They were never in the title race.
But here's the thing: I don't mean focus it on trying to win it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the fact that Chelsea are in the top 4 race right now. They can still finish outside of the top 4, and we're still looking at Spurs. We're talking about Conference League. It's not even Europa, bro. Conference League, and they're prioritizing
Chelsea have
conference.
won 2 Champions
What I'm
Leagues.
saying.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's almost lost a bit of steam. The fact, bro, let's keep it real. The fact that a Manchester United manager, the team who's won the Premier League the most times, whilst their rivals have just equalised on them, it's okay for a Manchester United manager to finish 16th just because he won the Europa League. The fact that even United fans, me being a United fan, it's okay for me if he wins the Europa League. The fact that that's the identity, that's the attitude, I think should be a clear indication that this season's almost been like, oh, throw it away, which that would never happen in the past.
I don't know if it's... I understand what you're saying. I don't think it's a lack of quality. I think that the quality is more dispersed. We're going to go through in a minute the awards for Manager of the Season, Player of the Season, Young Player of the Season, and the talent is just dispersed. We've just seen Dean Howson go from Bournemouth to Real Madrid. When have we ever seen Real Madrid sign a player that's not coming from, if it's in England, one of the big 4 or top 4, if it's in France, one of the top 2 or 3, a top team, the Galacticos thing. That would never normally happen. Eze
that was mad. When I saw that Real Madrid, that was crazy. That was crazy. Real Madrid.
Yep.
That's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are. And Bournemouth are at 11th in the Premier League. And whenever would you have seen a player go from 11th in the Premier League to Real Madrid? Ever. Do you know what I mean? So I think that the quality of the Premier League is dispersed
you're right.
across the league.
Definitely right about that. But then, when I'm looking at lack of quality, maybe I'm just saying in terms of the top teams.
The big 6.
Yeah, the attitude. And I feel like part of that is because...
It does almost feel like a lot of big 6 teams are taking the season off. I know Arsenal didn't run it close. Liverpool ran away with it. But City seemed pretty resigned that they're not letting their right back go in the middle of the season and all that. So it's like,
I think even,
we'll chalk this one off.
I think even Arsenal, to a certain degree...
Once we beat Real Madrid, we thought, actually... If we beat PSG, we're in the Champions League. Let's put all of our eggs in that basket. Yeah.
Spurs and United's been in that position.
Yeah.
Which I guess what we've seen
Chelsea.
Yeah. What we've seen is Chelsea's the maddest one because it's a conference and you won the champs twice. Like, bro, come on. But I think where we're
they've spent £1 billion.
Exactly. And you're fighting for top 4. It's not like us where we literally have 0 to fight for. I wish Chelsea don't make it to the top 4.
I wish that City don't make it to the top 5. It's not going to happen, and they will. But Manchester City, with all the money that they spent, people forget they spent 200 million in January. People criticise Arsenal. We haven't been that great, and the board haven't invested a lot of money. We expect a big summer. In January, we bought in. Who did we bring in January? Marino. That's it. That's the only signing. And in the summer, all we bought in is Calafiori, right? We haven't backed the manager in this But City spent 200 million in January alone and still might not make Champions League. That would be mental for City to be in Europa League after spending 200 million. Like this is where we are.
Yeah, but I think part of this is down to, and I don't want to bring it back to that, but a few years ago when we were talking about this Super League thing, and I feel like what we've seen is, and we kind of see it sometimes in boxing, where you see a heavy investment in the AJs, the Furies, the Canelos, the big names.
The big names, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see a Usyk just upset the apple cart.
Yep.
You see
it's cyclical.
Dimitri Bivol.
Yeah.
Or
it's a cycle.
Literally.
Do you know what I mean? We've come off a great era of heavyweights and we're going into a bit of an ugly era of heavyweights where, not being rude, Fabio Wardi and Moses Atoma are seen as like 2 of the world's top prospects, and that's kind of, they're not super amazingly technical. Neither of them are going to be like great Hall of Fame. You never know, but do you know what I mean? Like, but let's go through the awards and we can discuss. What do you want first? Young Player of the Season, Player of the Season, or Manager of the Season?
Let's go with Young Player of the Season.
Young Player of the Season. The 8 candidates are Liam Delap of Ipswich, Anthony Elanga from Nottingham Forest, Ryan Gravenberch from Liverpool, Dean Howson, Bournemouth, Cole Palmer, no idea why he's in here, Chelsea,
Never do I know how Liam did.
João Pedro of Brighton, Morgan Rogers, Aston Villa,
Aston Villa.
and William Saliba of Arsenal. And my gut reaction is...
There's 3 names instantly that have to come off that list.
Go on.
No, maybe there's more than 3, but for me, I would say Liam Delap. I don't know what he's doing. That is literally white man.
Double figures of goals
bro,
for a relegation
got relegated,
team.
bro.
Double figures of
Bro,
goals
you
for a
got
relegation
relegated,
team.
bro. There was times when Jermaine Defoe was scoring double figures for Sunderland. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, you got relegated, bro. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
You got relegated, bro. I don't really care how many goals you scored. You got relegated.
I think that...
How many... Bro,
12 goals, 2 assists in 36 games for a relegation team and one of the worst teams I've ever seen in the Premier League is not terrible. I will say that. It's not terrible. He just turned 22.
Player of the season.
Young player of the season, not player of the season. But
Oh, it's young player of the
young
season.
player of the season.
Okay.
You told me to start with young player of the season.
No, I completely forgot.
Young player of the season, right? However, I do think that Liam Delap is a little bit overrated. People are saying Amad Diallo has been in our chat, not the actual Amad Diallo, but we've got one of our subscribers, screen name's Amad Diallo. He's been saying, non-ironically, for most of my football streams, like, oh, you guys did a striker, you should look at Liam Delap. I was like, Liam Delap? Are you insane?
Facts.
Are you insane?
Crazy.
Like, I would take João Pedro over Liam Delap. I would take any of the attackers on this list. For me, I don't know the two that I'm not even sure they should be on this list. Cole Palmer and Liam Delap. Cole Palmer feels
and
like...
also Saliba.
Yeah, and Saliba as well. I was going to say...
I don't even think Saliba's been your best defender.
He's not been great.
Season.
No, Gabriel's been injured, but Gabriel was carrying him a little bit, and he's made a few big high-profile mistakes. Some of them are in the Champions League, not in the Premier League, to the point you made earlier. But then Kivior's come in, and Kivior's been carrying him as well.
Carrying him.
So
I thought Kivior, obviously this was champs, but I thought Kivior looked better in the games against PSG than Saliba.
Even in the Premier League. We've played the last 2 Premier League games, Kivior's looked better. So I'm not sure about Saliba. Again, Saliba and Cole Palmer, I think, are in there off like reputation and name recognition. The winner for me would probably be Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers or Ryan Gravenberch, I think.
Gravenberch, I think Gravenberch has had a tremendous season.
He started the season really poorly though.
He had a great game against us, which was the second game of the season.
He started the season a little bit off, and maybe I'm remembering last season. Maybe last season was off, and Slot came in and changed his role.
I mean, he's Dutch, innit? And obviously that Dutch connection. I mean, you know how important like someone from your country, you know.
João Pedro, I feel like he started the season well and then tailed off a little bit.
I think a lot of people did.
That's why I think the most consistent performers across the whole season, from what I've seen,
was Rogers
and Gravenberch.
Yeah, I'd probably say one of those two.
Jerry?
I wouldn't be disappointed with either. I'd probably just lean slightly towards Gravenberch.
Gravenberch won the league, so you know you'd have to go there. But Cole Palmer and Liam Delap, literally no idea. Dean Howson's obviously had a good season. That's why you get a move to Real Madrid. You know.
I was a bit surprised by that though.
Yeah, but if he didn't move to Real Madrid, he would have gone to like an Arsenal. There were other teams looking at him as well. Like,
so I'm still figuring out like how they're gonna make Howson work at Real Madrid.
They've got an aging defence. To be fair, he's left-sided centre back. I don't care how Real Madrid make it work. I don't give a shit about Real Madrid, but he's obviously had a season
good enough
to go to Real Madrid. Real Madrid are not looking at Liam Delap.
No, of course
they're not. Do you know what I mean?
And they need a striker.
yeah, they're not. I think they'd sign any of these players. They'd sign João Pedro or Elanga before they signed Liam Delap.
I thought Elanga's had a good season as well.
I think Elanga's had a decent season, but I do also think that Elanga's in a better team.
Oh, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? So I think that...
But yeah, man. What's the next one?
And then player of the season. So I'll go Morgan Rogers. You'd go... No, we both go Gravenberch, we said, actually.
Gravenberch.
Player of the season. So we've got Morgan Gibbs-White.
Definitely has to be up there.
Gravenberch again.
Has to be up there.
Can he win both? Are we discounting him from this?
No, he's not going to be winning this one, but okay. I know who I want.
Alexander Isak.
Yeah.
Brian Mbomo. Declan Rice. Mo Salah. Virgil van Dijk and Chris Wood.
I think it's between two.
Between two?
Yeah.
Isak and Salah?
Yeah. I think Isak and Salah, hands down, I think what Salah's done this season is Salah. Point blank period. Reason why I say is Salah, because if you remember last season and all the talk about how he was last season, going into, I think it was like either his last year of his contract or the penultimate year of his contract, there was a lot of talk about it.
Yeah.
And he literally earned the right to stay at Liverpool. Like when I mean, like he proved that, bro, I'm still that guy.
Yeah.
I am still that guy.
Yeah.
What he done in the Premier League this season is nothing short of remarkable, and he won them the league. I feel like it is not even a question. Mo Salah. But what Isak's done though, like, I think the reason why what Isak's done is so great is because when we talk about strikers, and there is definitely a, what's the word? We haven't seen the quality.
There's a shortage of great
there's a
strikers.
short of great strikers around world football.
Yeah.
And
You guys are buying a striker every year at the moment.
exactly. And you look at someone like Haaland, who for the last few seasons badding up. And I just feel like when you look at Isak, I just think what he's done this season for he doesn't. I just feel like he's the definition of a complete striker, bro.
And other than Anthony Gordon, they don't have like a dedicated person that starts on that other wing as well. Like they've got Murphy that plays there, they've got Barnes that plays there, they've got a few options. But like lots of teams, Arsenal, Liverpool,
and even what's that Spanish boy? Not Spanish boy, but
you can say Amaron.
Yeah,
I think he's gone now. I don't think he's there anymore.
No, go on, continue. I'm thinking about something else.
Lots of teams like Arsenal and Liverpool look to, obviously Liverpool have a Salah, but they look to spread the goals across the front three. They think this front three will get me X amount of goals. Whereas there aren't many nines out there where you go, this 9 will get me 15 league goals. Do you mean? Haaland's going to get me 15, 20 league goals. Isak's going to get me 15, 20 league goals.
But I think
there aren't that many others that you could... Again, Salah is the one that you look at consistently, but he's more of a winger, inside forward winger, whatever. But there's not that many players that you look at, especially not in the 9 position, that you go... Most other players you're looking at wingers.
I think he's almost... What Isak's done this season, because Haaland's kind of been like a freak of nature in the last couple of seasons, but I think what he's done is kind of almost restored the identity of what the Premier League is and what it's been founded on, which is
he's definitely restored the identity of a 9.
Yeah,
because suddenly, like
everybody,
Arsenal's looking at proper number 9s. Even Gyökeres is not really the style of 9 you'd normally associate with an Arsenal, but that's what in the absence of being able to afford an Isak, they're going, you know what? Let's get a big man up top and put balls up to him. Like, let's do that.
I think many people have done that. I think
Chris Wood on this list.
Liam Delap, we spoke about him before.
Mateta.
And Buemo.
Yeah. And Buemo's not a big man, he's more of a winger, but like...
No, but...
I'd say Jean-Philippe Mateta. Do you know what I mean?
Mateta, definitely what he done at Crystal Palace. Who else can I say?
Wissa at Brentford. He's another big number 9. Stick him up top.
But he kind of still from the last era as well, but so was Chris Wood, to be fair with you. But yeah.
But I'm saying teams that are being successful... That used to be seen as an ugly way to play.
You can even kind of relate it back to Spurs with
Solanke, yep. Not had his best season,
but
you know
what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think for me it's got to be Salah as well. I'm glad Declan Rice is in there. I think Declan Rice has been great for Arsenal, but Salah... And even then, Declan Rice did start the season a little bit shaky, to be fair. First month or two, he was adjusting to moving to 8 instead of 6. Morgan Gibbs-White, I think, has been fantastic. They've all been fantastic,
I'd probably say Morgan Gibbs-White's probably been, in isolation, the most, like, player. Like,
he just doesn't do anything wrong.
Player in an individual team.
I know what you mean. And for me, I want another attacking midfielder, and I would love to see Morgan Gibbs-White. For me, like Morgan Gibbs-White, like when I look at number 10s, they're either ball carriers these days or they're ball players. I think Ødegaard is more of a ball player. Bruno is more of a ball player. Doesn't mean they can't run with the ball, but they're not an Eze. They don't touch, look up, drive the ball forwards. That's what Eze does. That's what maybe Xavi Simons does. Florian Wirtz. But Morgan Gibbs-White's one of those guys. He can do both. He can look up and find a pass, or he can look up and drive with the ball.
100%. I think when you look at, though, like the history of the Premier League the last few seasons, people have been mentioned like De Bruyne, Rodri, even Arsenal's been Rice, United is Bruno. You look at the core players in midfield, you have to have a solid midfield. I think this season, for the first time, we're not talking about a Rodri. We're not talking about a De Bruyne. We're not talking about a Bruno. We're not talking about a Maddison. We're not talking about obviously Rice.
Rice is in there,
but Rice is probably the exception to the rule this season.
Well, Rice and Gravenberch are both 6/8. Morgan Gibbs-White and the others are all like attackers. Virgil's the only centre back that's in there. The only defender that's in there. Period.
And I don't even.
Maybe part of that is reputation as well.
I just think that's part of that.
But Morgan Gibbs-White is the only attacking midfielder that's in that, which says a lot. Rice has moved more to 8. He does attack, but he does defend as well. And like I said, Gravenberch kind of similar. But Morgan Gibbs-White's the only real attacking midfielder
Facts.
that's
Which
in that.
before you would have seen a Bruno, you would have seen a Madison, you would have not in.
Is there anyone
De
is there
Bruyne.
anyone that's missing out?
Cunha?
You think Mateus Cunha? Yeah.
16 goals, 8 assists.
We know why he's saying that, don't we?
16 goals, 8 assists. 16 goals, 8 assists, or is it something like that?
Would you have said this if he was signing for Arsenal?
You know why that's funny? You know why,
Look, because you
know why that's funny?
he's going to United, right?
Bruv, are you dumb? Obviously, that's the whole point of why I said it.
Exactly.
But,
Exactly.
To be fair though, when you asked about what I said if he was doing it for Arsenal, probably not. But you know what I do like? Certain players are just so great that you can't, like Rice. I can't not say how good Rice has been and how good Rice is. But it's probably not. Probably not.
Yuri Tillemans, maybe.
See, I'm not really sold on the Aston Villa team. I'm not really. I mean, he's a great player.
He's been a really good centre midfielder for them. Really, really good.
I don't know. Player of the year though. Like, how much impact has Tielemans had on the Prem this season?
Yeah.
That's the question.
That's what I'm looking at. Table. I'm looking at teams that have maybe overachieved.
Aston Villa didn't overachieve.
Nottingham Forest and Brighton, maybe the two teams. They're 7th and 8th. No, I guess Nottingham Forest is really the main team that's overachieved, and I guess you've got Morgan Rogers in there. You've got Morgan Gibbs-White in there,
and Wood,
and Chris Wood as well. Yeah.
So like, I don't really see where any
Murillo maybe centre back.
No, but he's a bad boy though.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a bad
that's-
boy though.
yeah.
He's a bad boy though.
On to managers. Manager of the season, I think there's only got to be one manager, but for the sake of the argument, the short list is, and this is Premier League as well, so we're not taking into account FA Cups or League Cups or anything. This is just the Premier League. Brentford, Thomas Frank. Newcastle, Eddie Howe. Nottingham Forest, Nuno. Vita Pereira at Wolves, and Arne Slot.
Vita Pereira's had a great season.
Yeah.
The reason why Vita Pereira's had a great season is because that Wolves team, for years upon years upon years, you know, they struggled.
They're 14th though.
No, but it's the style of play that I've seen them play.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, they're 14th. They've got some of the three worst relegation teams behind them, and then Manchester United and Tottenham, and then West Ham.
I just mean in terms of the style that he's brought into their system.
I don't style with no results. Come on. They're 14th. Like, the teams below them are 6 of the worst teams.
I do think they've done a great job. I felt, bro, if you watch Wolves in the last couple of seasons,
when did he come in, Vito Pereira?
I think he's been there from the
beginning of the season.
No, he hasn't. He wasn't.
He must have come in midway through the season.
He came in when they were in a relegation battle.
Yeah, that's what I was. That makes sense. That makes sense.
And
I was just looking at it and I was thinking, there's no way he's on this list if they're 14th.
No.
I thought he must have come in partway through the season.
Because I remember they were struggling earlier this season. Who was their manager? And I didn't even think they should have got rid of him as well. They got, what's his name?
Wasn't Gary O'Neill?
Yeah, it was.
Was it Gary O'Neill?
Gary O'Neill.
Yeah.
And I actually thought Gary O'Neill was doing a decent job.
He's a good manager, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't clicking.
But I felt like with the players that he played, I never thought that Wolves could play the style of football that they were playing.
The problem with Gary O'Neill was again, it was a nearly man. They kept playing good football, but they just didn't get results. And sometimes it was dodgy decisions and whatever, but it's a results business, right? So it is.
But Arne Slot, bro.
Arne Slot's got to be.
Arne Slot,
to come into the Premier League,
season.
The most competitive league in the world, still the most competitive league in the world, in my opinion. Still, even though he's walked it.
I don't know about that anymore. You know, I don't know about that anymore. I genuinely don't know about that anymore.
If of the big 5 leagues, maybe you've got Italy.
I was going to say Italy.
It's between the Prem and Italy. When you start the season every year, Bayern obviously win the league. Real Madrid or Barcelona, between one of them, PSG win the league. Like they are nailed on. Do you mean we don't know?
I think we have to look at this season in isolation. We have to look at this season in isolation.
In terms of what?
Historically, the Premier League is the most competitive, but this season I can't say that. I haven't seen any Let's look at the root word, competition. This year hasn't been a competition. Liverpool have run away with it, and you've got 3 teams who are.
Is that not because Slot's been good? Or you're just saying that's because everyone else has been
But it hasn't been competitive. We're talking about the most competitive league. What has been competitive about this season? What, the relegation battle wasn't competitive?
But generally speaking, it's the most competitive league.
Generally, but let's look at this league in isolation.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying that is because Arne Slot's never managed.
So you wouldn't have him on this list then?
Who?
Arne Slot.
No, he's won it, but I just think he's won it in spite of.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for me,
So
Arne
you
Slot
think they've walked the league because everyone else has been shit?
1,000,000%.
Okay.
1,000,000%. And I think the biggest thing is Arne Slot. You say it's the most competitive league. He hasn't had a competition. He hasn't been in a competition.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen Liverpool in a competition, they failed this season.
He's not up against the best Arsenal, albeit we still fell short. He's not up against the best City.
No, but
He's not,
every time I've seen them in a competition this season, they failed.
Yeah.
They were in a competition in the Carabao Cup final. People forget that he lost. They lost to Newcastle.
Yeah.
They got absolutely. They got beaten by PSG. They played good football, but they got beaten by PSG.
Yeah.
It is what it is, bro. They
Yeah.
got beaten by PSG. So for me, whilst give them all the credit, and he does deserve it, but when you say it's the most competitive, like what he's doing versus, let's say, who's top of Italy right now? Is it Napoli or is
I
it?
thought maybe it's Napoli.
But I remember it was close still. Who's top of Italy? Serie A.
Napoli, but Inter's 1 point behind them.
All right, cool. When you look at what Inter's doing and when you look at what Napoli's doing this season, Napoli's manager this season is Conte. You look at what Conte's done in the Italian league. Look at what Inter's done in terms of them Champions League final, and they could win the league as well. For me, I don't look at Arne Slot and say, yo, what you've done. What you've done is impressive if you don't look at it with context. With context, we've seen the worst Arsenal team in the last 3 seasons. They've been riddled with injuries. Absolutely. Bro, you've had 29 injuries this season.
Of our starting 11, only like 2 players have not been out for 7 games.
The best player in the last 2 seasons, Rodri, has been out the whole season.
Yeah.
He's been out.
Yeah.
But most importantly, Salah's pretty much been fit the whole season. Van Dijk's pretty much been fit the whole season. You've had Alisson out, but bro, I can't really. I say he's done a great job, but I'm not like gassed on Arne Slot like how other people.
So going into next season, you're not like, if you're an Arsenal fan or a Man City fan, you're not intimidated going into next season. Like, oh my God, this Liverpool team. Blah, blah, blah.
We played Liverpool this season.
Yeah.
When we played Liverpool this season, we should have beat them, bro.
Yeah.
And we're shit.
We've taken 4 points from them this season.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How much of this season? Let's look at it when they only picked up that gap when Saka and you had all those injuries. Saka and Odegaard and that was injured. Before that, it was nip and tuck.
Yeah.
It was nip and tuck. Even up until January, it was nip and tuck.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? If your board had supported you,
in January.
You know what I'm saying? You might have had a bit of chance. I don't even like Arsenal. I don't even like Arsenal, but
it's
facts. Facts is facts, innit?
So young player of the season, we're going Gravenberch. Player of the season, we're going Mo Salah. And manager of the season, we're going Arne Slot. That's a clean sweep for Liverpool, in spite of the fact that you're saying that.
No, but everybody ain't performed though. The fact that we're sitting here looking at people like flipping Wood, pause. We're looking at people like Mbeumo or...
Mbeumo's a baller.
Bro, previous seasons, we would have been looking at Saka, De Bruyne, Rodri, Bruno. Do you know what I'm saying? Bro, this is the Haaland.
Yep.
We're not mentioning none of these names, bro.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like... We'll be
big boys. If we look at a list of like the top 20 highest paid players, for example, the big profile players, none of them are there.
Where's Pep in that list?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Where's the greatest manager that we've seen in recent times? You can arguably say the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah.
Where's he in that list, bro?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So, bro, Liverpool won it, but bro, you won it. Cool, you won it, innit?
Yeah.
But I don't really care.